Morning, ma'am.
So, so for this course, which is IoTPS, that is IoT and Protocol Security, we'll be going through the certain basics which are required in the development of architecture of any system which is based on Internet of Things. Further, we'll go ahead with some of the basics used in the entire IoT infrastructure, and then we'll deal up with the security issues which are handled. So, for this course, we do not have a very specific book which we'll be referring for. So, what will I be doing is I'll be doing it the same way how it was done in the previous course. I'll be teaching you certain concepts which are actually part of some research papers, and we'll send you those documents across, and you can study them and move ahead in this course. Okay. Uh, the marking scheme for this course would be since you are having 100 marks distribution. So this time I would like to keep it as you will obviously be having minors and major, plus you'll have a presentation. So you'll include one of the research papers or find it out the research paper according to you. The presentation would be individual. So the presentation would have marks approx 20. Yeah, I'll make it as 25. Okay. And rest 75 will be for your minor and major. So there will be only one minor this time, and then you'll have a major. So your major would be of 40 marks and your minor would be of 35 marks. Total. Fine. So this is the distribution as of now. Now, um, let's start off with the course. Um, so the course is IoT PS, which is Internet of Things and protocol and its security. So, what do you mean by IoT first? IoT is Internet of Things. Now, tell me all in all what is meant by IoT and what do you mean by things? Okay, let's start the discussion. By one, please give us your point of view. Mohana,
Yes, ma'am.
according to you, what is meant by IoT? Anybody else?
Anything in
Mental
which we
connection.
implement internet connections,
Any
devices, any devices with our internet connections that are used for some any specific work.
okay. Anybody else? What are things? Things are devices.
Yes, ma'am. Like anything, smartphones, home appliances, anything.
Okay. So there would be, if you visualize the entire structure, it would be something like there would be multiple devices. Okay. So there would be multiple devices. There would be a network which is comprising of all of these devices. Okay, these devices can communicate with each other. Fine. The first and foremost thing which all of these devices need to have is a proper networking platform. Okay, when all of these devices are connected, or these all devices, if provided a networking platform, can further communicate with each other. Now, when these devices are communicating with each other, there comes the major definition of Internet of Things. What is it? Your Internet of Things would only involve, or we can say that the Internet of Things is referred as a simple interaction. Okay. Now, this interaction can be between the devices. Okay. Or these can be between the digital world which is present. So I can say it as the Internet of Things is simply an interaction between the physical world and the digital world. Okay. Now, physical world would be the physical devices, and the digital world would be normally the data which is connected, or the components which are involved in processing of the data. Fine. So the other thing which we can say is that the digital world, okay, how would the interaction happen? Since I said that the interaction is between the physical and the digital world. So we can say that the digital world interacts with the physical world, okay, with the help of some other sensors and actuators. Fine. Now, in order to have this interaction, there would be some other sources which are required to interact between these components, or between these two worlds. What are those components? These are the sensors and the actuators. Fine. So this is one definition which we can say, that IoT can be referred as interaction between physical and digital world, which is facilitated by the sensors and the actuators. Okay. One more definition which we can have is, your IoT is normally a paradigm, okay, in which the computing and the networking capabilities are embedded in any kind of the object. Okay, what are these sensors and actuators doing? Your sensors and actuators would be collecting the data. Okay, किसका data collect करोगे? Whether the data which all of these devices are processing on, or these devices are working on. Okay, so we can say that the IoT is normally a paradigm between the computing, so processing is referred as computing, and networking capabilities which are actually embedded in any of these objects. Okay, with the help of computing and networking, okay, these are the two capabilities which the devices are having. Okay, now with the help of these capabilities, what you can do is, we can identify the state of one object from the other object. Okay, we can say that we are querying the state of the object, and we can also change the state of that particular object if possible. Fine. So there can be multiple definitions which can be inferred for a particular system which is referred as an IoT system. But the underlying concept which is there in the IoT is that there would be multiple devices, or which are referred as things. These multiple devices would be interacting with each other both in the physical domain as well as in the digital domain to finally have a particular task done. Now, this thing was normally happening in a initial version of internet as well. What is the need of having connecting the devices, and what all add-ons is this Internet of Things providing? So the add-on which IoT provides you is that since there are, I'll now refer these devices as IoT devices. I'll not refer these as individual devices. Okay. Now, all of these devices which are present in an IoT infrastructure, which are referred as IoT devices, these IoT devices are having certain add-ons. Okay, what are those? These are having embedded sensors within them. These can have processors within them. These can also be referred as actuators. Okay, sometimes these can also be referred as transceivers. Okay, so these devices are not just the individual systems. Instead, if I have a sensor, that sensor will also be referred as an IoT device. If I have a processor, that processor can also be referred as an IoT device, provided that it has the proper networking facility associated to it. Okay, so we can say it as the entire IoT system would comprise of multiple devices which can be either sensors or processors or actuators or transceivers to perform a specific task. So all of these IoT devices would interact with each other both in the digital world as well as in the physical environment. Okay. Now, okay. So now moving ahead, I'll take a system. So these are the devices which are present. Okay. Now this device is a server. Let's say it is a file server. This is a normal email or web server. Okay. This is a fine. So these are three devices which are present at different locations. So all of these are present at different remote locations. Now, with all of these devices, it is not necessary that the file server as well as the webmail server as well as the printing server will be busy at, let's say, we'll say that 24 hours, or at whatever time these servers are on, these servers will always be busy. This is not essential. Okay. Now, what normally happens is that when we are talking about an IoT system, the concept of resource sharing is there. Fine. What would be referred as resource sharing in this concept or in this context is that, let's say, at a particular location where your file server is present, the requests are higher. Fine. Now, this D1, D2, and D3, all of these three devices have same concepts of having the components within them. These have initial same configurations. Only the difference is that the domain in which they are being used, or the sort of request which are initially handled by these devices. Now, if I have these three devices in an IoT system, what can be done is that the resource sharing can utilize the concept of, or can utilize these webmail server and the printer server in handling the requests from other users or from other processes. Okay. Now, since it would be the case that D1 is not able to process a particular set of requests, so the requests are forwarded to the D2 to be handled. But in that case, the user would completely be unaware of the fact. Fine. So the transfer of the request which is happening from D1 to D2 or D3 or any other direction would be opaque. Your user will not be aware of the fact that D1, D2, and D3 are the three devices which device is handling the request. Okay. Now, with the concept of IoT, we normally say that the storage and processing of data can be done on the edge of the network itself or in a remote server. Okay. So, I have a scenario where the entire architecture of IoT can be developed. So, if I consider this, I have these three layers of an IoT architecture. Okay, so first layer which is referred is the perception layer. Fine. Then we have the network layer, and finally we have an application layer. Okay. So this is normally a three-layer architecture of an IoT system. Now, here we cannot find out that which layer is doing the storage and which layer is doing the processing of the data. Okay. So we'll say that the entire storage and processing, okay, of the data is possible at the location where the sensors are placed, or we'll say that at the proximate devices. Okay, so that comes in the part of your which layer? It comes in the part of your perception layer. Okay, so this would involve all of your sensors and the actuators. Okay, now what is the challenge while we have a three-layer architecture? How, what things will not be handled by such sort of architecture? Will it be that only a certain set of uh, applications, that is only the wireless devices or only the connected devices, wired devices will be able to be part of an IoT system? Or we can say that higher the layers in any architectures, it would be much more easier to process the different layers. When we talk about the perception layer, so this perception layer can be referred as a physical layer, okay, which has the sensors that are used for sensing and gathering the information about the entire environment. Sometimes it senses the physical parameters or sometimes it identifies the smart objects which are present in the environment. Okay. Next layer is the network layer. What is the network layer responsible for? It is responsible for connecting to the smart things. So we'll have the networking devices and the servers, which would be part of your network layer. What is the major feature of such layer? It is only used for transmitting and processing of the sensor data. Okay, so I'll write it as here as transmitting and processing of data. Which data? That is collected by the sensor. Okay, next comes your application layer. In case of an application layer, what we'll say? Your application layer is responsible for delivering application specific services to the user. Okay, so what application specific services? We normally have IoT systems which can be deployed for smart homes, smart hospitals, or smart cities. So there would be various applications in which the IoTs can be deployed. For example, you'll have the application for smart homes, smart health, and smart cities. Okay. Now, this entire three-layer architecture, which is a perception network and the application layer architecture, this three-layer architecture tells you the main idea of IoT. But it is not sufficient for the research which is ongoing currently on IoT, because there are multiple finer aspects which have not been tackled in this three-layer architecture. Okay, so that is why there are multiple layers or more layers embedded into the proposed three-layer system. Fine. One modification of this three-layer architecture is a five-layer architecture, which additionally includes the processing and the business layers. Okay, so what layers are now there? In a five-layer, it is first you have the perception, then here we'll have a transport. Okay, your network layer can also be referred as a processing layer. So this can be explicitly said as it's a processing layer. Then you have an application layer, and finally you'll have a business layer. Okay, so the role of the perception layer and the application layer is same as which was there in your three-layer system. Okay, what two new layers we have added is transport and business, and this has been modified to the processing layer. Now, what would be the major task of transport layer? This transport layer would transfer the sensor data, okay, from the perception layer to the processing layer and vice versa. Okay. In this case, what technology will be used is you can use wireless system, you can have 3G, you can have Bluetooth, you can have NFCs or RFIDs. So it doesn't mean that in an IoT, every device which is connected will always have a similar underlying networking platform. There can be multiple platforms which can be integrated as a whole. Okay. Next, what is there is the processing layer. So what is the use of the processing layer? Your processing layer, which is this, I'll make this as processing layer. Okay. Now this processing layer would actually act as a middleware. what would it do? It would store, analyze, and process huge amount of data which would come from the transport layer. Okay. It further manages and provides a diverse set of services to the lower layers. And what technologies can be employed in such cases would be, so you are requiring storage, analysis, and processing. You are doing these three individual components at the middleware. So the technologies which would be required is to store, you'll have databases. You can have cloud computing. You can have big data processing modules as part of the processing layer. Okay. Now, when I said that you'll be having multiple databases. Okay. The other is cloud computing, as you can have a big data processing module. Fine. This further tells us that when we are talking about processing, your processing in an IoT can also have multiple different options. So you can do processing at the cloud computing level, or you can do processing using certain big data modules. Okay. So this leads you to a new concept, which is cloud computing. Along with this, we have a different concept, which is edge computing. Okay. So is it clear? Anybody has any doubt till now?
Ma'am, can you please repeat the transport layer, ma'am? Why we will need that? Because in the previous layer also we are doing the transferring the data, but without this layer. But why we need this transport layer specifically?
Okay. So what was happening in the three-layer system is that your network layer was only responsible, sorry, your network layer was the only layer which was responsible for transmitting as well as processing of the data. Okay. Now the problem here comes in when you are having multiple technologies for transferring. Okay.
Okay.
So what we'll have, I said that you have 3G, you have RFIDs, and you have NFCs. Okay. So all of these three technologies and your devices, there will be multiple devices. So you'll have to handle the data based upon these three technologies. Along with that, you have other devices will be sending the data in their formats. Okay.
Okay.
Larger the number of devices, because in case of an IoT, you have multiple types of devices. Every device's information or having a metadata which is related to every device is not very feasible. So in order to scale it and in order to have a higher flexibility, we need to have a transport layer that would process the data and also transfer the data which is collected through the sensors. Now, in a IoT infrastructure, let's say we are talking about having a system where you are deploying the sensors in agriculture domain. Okay. Now, those sensors can be of multiple types. For instance, you are having soil sensors, you are having temperature sensors. All of these sensors which are there, yes, they will be collecting the data, but their collection of the data would either be simultaneously they will be collecting the data and also they will be sending the data to a domain or to a particular device. So to process those devices information and also to uh, decide upon the factor that which information is more essential, you need to divide both of these into a different domains. That is why we have a different layer, transport layer, and we have a different processing layer.
Okay.
Okay. The underlying difference is that in a three layer, it is not very easy to handle the information at a very grassroots level. Any other doubts? Okay. Um, so I was talking about the cloud computing and the edge computing domain. Okay. So first, I'll again go back to the concept of sensors and actuators. So the sensors, actuators, servers, and the communication network, these are the core components which form the core infrastructure of any IoT framework. Fine. These can either be used by a single device, or these can be referred as single device, or these can work in conjunction to find out or to decide upon or to do a particular task. Okay. Now, with all of these individual devices which are forming the core infrastructure of any IoT framework, there are many software aspects which need to be considered. Okay. First, what we need to do is we need a middleware that can be used to connect and manage all of these heterogeneous components. Okay. So this leads us to one more thing, that in an IoT infrastructure or in an IoT framework, you will have multiple components, which obviously would be the heterogeneous components. Okay, so first thing is that we need a middleware that can be used to connect and manage all of these heterogeneous components. Okay, the other thing which is there is that we will need a lot of standardization to connect many different devices. So standardization is that for sensors to be connected to the actuators, or for servers to transmit the data to via a communication network, I might be requiring certain communication models, some communication models which are more intricate, which cannot be used in a specific application. So there would be certain rules which would obviously be used while transmitting and processing the data. Okay. Since we talk about IoT, we find out various applications that would be healthcare, fitness, education, entertainment, home automation, transport systems. So there are multiple application areas. Okay. With these application areas, there are significantly different IoT technologies which will be able to reduce human effort and improve the quality of information or quality of life. Okay, so when I spoke about the transport layer and the processing layer, I told you that in case of a transport layer, we are using various sensors data and the perception layers to the we are transferring the sensor data from the perception layer to the processing layer, and vice versa happens. Same case when we're talking about processing layer, we were focusing upon those technologies that employ databases, cloud computing, and big data processing modules. Finally, what layer comes into the context is the business layer. So in case of business layer, okay, what happens? Your business layer entirely manages the whole IoT system. Okay, so what comprises as the whole IoT system? It would include the applications. It would also include the business and the profit models. Also, it would consider users' privacy. Okay, so this factor is completely a managerial factor. We'll not discuss this. We'll discuss about the entire applications which are part of the IoT system and the users' privacy. Okay. Now, when I talk about two-layer and three-layer architecture, I did not tell you about what underlying technologies will be more optimum in using in an IoT framework. I said that you can use databases, you can use cloud computing, you can use edge computing, you can also use a fog-based computing. So depending upon what underlying technology or underlying processing architecture I am using, technology I am using, I can further scale my IoT architecture. So initially we considered IoT architectures as three-layer architecture and five-layer architecture. There is one more concept which tells you to distinguish between any IoT system. That is a fog and cloud-based architecture. Okay. Now, these are the two kinds of system architectures which can be used in any IoT system. Or if I say that in a different language, any IoT system which is present as of now would either be a cloud-based architecture or it could be a fog-based architecture. Okay. Now, what is the difference which leads us to a proper distinction between a cloud and fog? For that, let's take an example that how does an IoT processing happens. So initially I said that there are these devices. Okay. These devices would be transmitting the data from their end, or these can be communicating in this domain. Fine. Now, there are certain servers present over here which would collect the data from all of these devices, process it, and send it to the required. Okay. For instance, I have a system where this is a server. This has 4. Okay. This is a home automation system. Okay. Now, these are two IoT frameworks. One is a home automation which involves two devices and a server, and the other one is a different IoT framework. Now, if there needs to be a resource sharing done, or if there is any request which this particular system cannot satisfy, your servers can forward the request to the server and it can be handled by the resources present at this end. So both of these servers also need to be present or communicated either by the wireless system or by the wired system. Okay. So this doesn't say that the devices need to be connected. Instead, the devices can be indirectly connected with the help of any networking platform. Here your servers are connected. Fine. Now, whatever information these individual devices are having, all of these informations are in raw format. Okay. There is only substantial amount of information which needs to be present at the server's end, or the processing needs to be done at the server end only on a specific set of data. Okay. This underlying network which is provided can be a fog network or it can be a cloud network. Okay. So the difference only comes in the context of processing. How does a fog network or how does a fog computing platform tells you the processing, and how does a cloud computing platform tells you the processing? So your cloud computing is always given higher privilege. Why? Because in case of fog computing, the computing happens at the edge devices and also. Okay. The cloud computing is given higher weightage because it provides greater flexibility and scalability. How does it provide greater flexibility and scale? We can say that the cloud computing architecture is a large centralized architecture where, or we can say that it is a cloud centric architecture which keeps your cloud at the center and the devices below it, or that is the network of smart things below it, and the applications above it. Okay, so whatever devices would like to be added into the IoT network can be added directly to the cloud, which can further interact with the application. Okay. Also, your cloud computing offers services like core infrastructure. It can offer you a storage facility. So what I'll say it in a very nutshell, that these are the devices. These sensors and actuators will process the data, and the processed data can be stored at this location, at the cloud location, with which your applications can interact. Okay, so this cloud can have the storage of a data, it can have storage of tools, it can have various machine learning or the data mining tools. Okay, now talking about the different concept, which is fog. In case of fog, between this cloud and the devices, there would be one more domain or one more entity that would be referred as edge device. That can be referred as an edge device. So for any request to be processed in case of a cloud first, every time your device would have to send in the information to the, every time your device would have to send in the request to the cloud, it would be processed first, depending upon whether it needs to be interacting with the application or not, and then your D2 would be replied. However, in case of fog, what will happen? Your D1, D2 and D3 would collect the information, sensors would collect the information, at the edges processing will happen, and further the final processed data would be stored at the cloud. Okay, let's say there is some request which is generated from the devices. It would first be generated, let's say it is generated from D1. That request will not be directly forwarded to the cloud. Instead, if it can be handled at the fog interface, it would be handled here, and then it would be replied back. If there isn't any request which cannot be handled by the fog, then it would be forwarded to the cloud domain. What is the advantage is here which is being offered is that your cloud will have Yes, your cloud has the capability to store the larger amount of data, but if you directly go for storage as well as processing parallelly, the higher amount of there would be a higher complexity generated at the cloud interface because your applications are also accessing the data parallelly. Is it clear? Any other doubt? Any doubt?
No, ma'am.
Sure. So I'll take a architecture of fog first. So if I want to create a fog architecture, I'll make it as first as the transport layer. We can have a security layer. We can have a storage layer. Have a preprocessing layer. And the physical layer. Okay. So this is the entire fog architecture where this part is added, which was not there in the existing 3-layer or the 5-layer. Your existing 3-layer and the 5-layer only had the physical layer, the transport layer, and further it was done. Now here, the data processing which happens between the physical and the transport layer is divided into further layers, that is the monitoring, pre-processing, storage, and the security. Okay. So if I say here, see here, and find out, when we're talking about fog computing, you'll have the concept of sensors and network gateways. Okay. So the sensors and network gateways in case of fog computing will do the data processing and the analytics. Okay. We have added the monitoring, pre-processing, storage, and security layers between the physical and the transport layer, where the monitoring layer does the monitoring of power. It would do the monitoring of resources, the responses, and the services. Then you have a pre-processing layer which performs the filtering. It would also do the processing and do the analytics of what? Of the sensor data. Then we have a temporary storage layer. This storage layer provides you storage functionalities like data replication, distribution, and normally a storage. Okay. Then you have the security layer. This security layer would perform obviously encryption and decryption. Also, it would ensure the what? It would also ensure the data integrity and privacy. Fine. Now, I've divided all of these layers and told you what are the functionalities. Now, the monitoring and the pre-processing, we have to divide that which section needs to be done at the edge networks and which section needs to be done at the cloud. So monitoring and the pre-processing are done on the edge of the network before sending the data to the cloud, and rest other factors can be done at the cloud. Okay, sometimes fog and edge computing are used interchangeably. Okay, so what I told you initially, you have cloud computing, you have fog computing, and you have edge computing. In some cases, you can refer fog computing as well as just like an edge computing. Okay, normally we say that fog computing is termed by Cisco, and it was used to refer the smart gateways and smart sensors. Okay, so with the concept of fog computing, there are other concepts. Let's say you have spoken about uh, edge network, edge devices, network gateways, okay, smart gateway, these are four terms which will be used in fog computing. Okay, so find out what are these. Are these same, or there is any difference between the network gateway or a smart gateway? What are these functionalities? Also answer. Is it clear? Any doubt till now?
Ma'am, the edge network and fog computing, which we are discussing as a separate terms, these are similar or the same? I mean,
Edge
both
network,
use edge processing, but are they the same thing?
in case of fog you are talking about? Which one? Edge network?
And fog computing?
Yeah. See, edge network and fog computing occurs at edge network.
Okay. So edge network represents the devices which are at the
Yes. Yes.
which have the sensor, like the smartwatches and the mobile.
Yes, yes. So what I'll do, I'll give you an example. See, let's say we're talking about IoT system, which is regulating your transportation. ठीक है? Now what happens is that if I have an IoT system which regulates the entire traffic lights and all, what would be there? आपके जितने भी डिवाइसेस रोड पे रन कर रहे हैं, सारे डिवाइसेस के पास you'll have a GPS. Okay, these are sensors. There would be a control system. Okay, अगर मैं ये कंट्रोल सिस्टम एज अ क्लाउड कंसिडर करती हूँ, तो जो भी डिसीजंस होंगे which are based upon data collected by the devices and transmitted to the control system, वो उसी के बेसिस पर होंगे. तो जो आपकी, let's say you have your traffic lights present, depending upon the traffic lights or depending upon the traffic, your devices would be directed. Is it clear? डिसीजन कौन लेगा, कौन से रूट की लाइट रेड होनी चाहिए और कौन से रूट की लाइट ग्रीन होनी चाहिए, ये कौन डिसाइड करेगा? कंट्रोल सिस्टम डिसाइड करेगा. ठीक है, सो अभी हमने जो डिसीजन दिया है दैट इज सेंट्रली. इज इट क्लियर?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
If I try to move it into a fog domain, why would I first identify that why do I want it to be moved into a fog domain? is that let's say किसी भी रूट पर एकदम से बहुत ज्यादा कंजेशन बढ़ गया, आपको क्या करना पड़ेगा, रूट डाइवर्ट करना पड़ेगा. सो वो रूट डाइवर्ट करने का डिसीजन अगर हम सेंट्रली लेंगे तो ऑब्वियसली इट वुड टेक हायर टाइम. फाइन. व्हाट कैन वी डू इज दैट जो हमारे ट्रैफिक लाइट्स हैं, in those traffic lights itself, what do? I add certain intelligent system. Okay. और वो ट्रैफिक लाइट्स हमारे एज नेटवर्क्स की तरह हैंडल है. तो जितने भी डिवाइसेस उस पर्टिकुलर डोमेन में प्रेजेंट होंगे, उन सारे डिवाइसेस का इंफॉर्मेशन वो ट्रैफिक लाइट सिस्टम एड्रेस कर देगा. सो अ डिसीजन कैन बी टेकन locally as well, or without taking it centrally always. उस केस में जो आपके ट्रैफिक लाइट्स के सिस्टम होंगे वो हम एज नेटवर्क्स बोल सकते हैं. ठीक है. तो जो डिसीजन हमारे उस टाइम पे लेना था, दैट वाज टेकन बाय द सर्टेन इंटेलिजेंट ट्रैफिक लाइट सिस्टम्स, दैट टू लोकली, एंड द इशू हैज बीन एड्रेस. फिर बाद में आप उस डेटा को सेंट्रल सिस्टम को प्रोसेस कर सेंड कर सकते हो. What is the reason of having a cloud and fog is only because we can do a processing at a local level in case of fog computing. In case of cloud, it will always be at the center. So the structure is cloud, applications and devices. ये आपका क्लाउड कंप्यूटिंग का स्ट्रक्चर है. फॉग का स्ट्रक्चर सिर्फ एक ये ऐड हो जाता है यहाँ पर. तो हमने डिसीजन सेंट्रली हमेशा ना लेकर के लोकली भी ले लिया. अब लोकली का मतलब ये नहीं है कि एवरी टाइम those devices which are present in that local route will only be there. Locally is also centrally only, but we are not having, or we are not scaling the entire domain. Instead, we are taking the decision on the current active devices. It can have multiple devices. तो जब multiple devices होगा और बहुत सारे अलग networks connected होंगे, तो वो locally नहीं रहेगा, वो होगा centrally, but it is a level lower than the cloud. I hope it is clear now.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, then D1, D2, D3 act as edge devices. Or ma'am,
Yes. Yes, they can act as edge devices. Wait. So I'll tell you a proper logical system and what are the functional blocks which can happen. So for any IoT system, I would always be having the lowest level, which is a device. अब ये device, it can be anything. It can be an edge device. It can be a server. It can be a normal sensor. Anything. Okay. These devices would be interacting with each other on the basis of communication models. Okay. Also, when they are communicating with each other, they would be making use of some services. Further, these services will help you to use the applications with which they are built for. Okay. There comes two more components. One is the management. And finally, here you can have a security block. Okay. So if I want to say that this is an entire IoT functional architecture, or the entire IoT system comprises of a number of functional blocks which provide the capabilities for identification, sensing, actuation, communication and management. Okay. So जो sensing, actuation, monitoring, control function, all of these are part of your devices. Then you have communication. This handles the communication for the entire IoT system. Then you have your services. The IoT system uses various types of IoT services, such as you'll have service for a device monitoring, you'll have service for device controlling, you'll have service for data publishing, you'll have service for device discovery. Okay. Then you have the management block. So this management function block provides the various function to govern the entire IoT system. Further, you have security component, so which is the security functional block. This secures the IoT system, and by providing the functions like authentication, authorization, message and uh, integrity and data security. And finally, you have the applications, that is the IoT applications, which provide an interface that the users can use to control and monitor various aspects of the IoT system. Okay. Now, what we need to study is, we need to now study that how would these devices be communicating with each other. So this tells us to come up to a section where we'll discuss about the communication models which are involved. Okay. So the communication, there are multiple communication models. First communication model which is involved is a request and response communication model. So whenever we talk about a request and response, obviously this would mean that there is a client and there is a server. There would be requests generated from client and a response would be generated from the server. Along with these two, you have one more component which is referred as resources, because it's an IoT system. So there would be obviously sharing of the resources involved within it. Okay. So in a request response communication model, or we'll say that request and response is a communication model in which your client sends the request to the server and server responds to the request. Okay. When the server receives a request, it would decide how to respond for that particular request. Okay. For responding, what would it do? It would either fetch the data, or it would retrieve the resource representations. It can prepare the response and then send the response to the client. So what we can have here is, I'll add one more. This would be a two-way communication. Okay. So what I'll do is, your client sends requests to server. Okay. Your server would receive request from client, process the request. While processing, after processing, what would it do? Looks up and fetches. हाँ कौशल जी, wait a minute. आपको उसी टाइम बोल देती हूँ, मेरा ध्यान से निकल गया। Okay, so where was I? Fine. So I was telling that at the server side, your server would receive the request from the client, process the request, look up for the type of response which has to be given, and further prepare the response. Okay. Now, the important thing which we need to discuss in a request and response model is that this is a stateless communication model. What is meant by a stateless communication model? What do you
We
mean?
cannot store about anything like tables in the form.
Yes, it will not store about what are the previous requests and responses which have been generated. Okay, so when we talk about a when we talk about request and response model, it is a stateless communication model, and each request and the response pair is independent of the others. Okay, so this is an important thing which we need to consider, that this is a stateless communication model. Next communication model is a publish and subscribe communication model. Now, in case of a publish and subscribe communication model, the entities here are publisher, the broker, and the consumers. Okay, so in the entire publish and subscribe sort of communication model, This normally involves publishers, brokers, and the consumers. Okay, your publishers are the source of data. Okay, so when these are the source of data, your publisher sends the data. Your publisher would send data, or you'll say that send the message. Okay, to send data to topics. Okay, so what is topics over here? In the broker section, there are certain topics. Let's say this is topic 1 and topic 2. And for this topic 1, there would be certain subscribers. So it is something like these topics are services, and the consumers are enrolled in these services. Okay, so topic 1, topic 2 are in the form of services. The subscribers would be the consumers. Okay, so I'll repeat. Your publishers are the source of data. Publishers would send the data to the topics. Okay, and these topics are managed by the broker. Okay, now the important thing over here is that your publishers are not aware of the consumers. They are not aware that what all consumers or how many consumers are enrolled in this topic. Okay, also your consumers subscribe to the topics which are managed by the brokers. Okay, when the broker receives the data for a particular topic from the publisher, it directly sends the data to the all consumers who have been subscribed. So what would happen? Here the data would be communicated to, let's say it is consumer 1, consumer 2. Okay, when you have a topic 2 also as part of this, your publisher would specifically send the data to the broker for topic 2, and that data would now be further forwarded to the consumer. So it is, let's say, consumer 3. Now this would be, so you'll have this data is for topic 1 and this data is for topic 2. So the message published to the topic 1 would be sent to the broker. Broker would forward it to the consumers. Same case, message published to topic 2. Same case, message published to the topic 2 will be sent from publisher to the broker, and it would be forwarded to the consumer 3. Okay, any doubt? I hope there isn't any issues with it.
No, ma'am.
Okay. Next is, so here you only need to consider one thing. Keep in mind that your publishers are not aware of the consumer. So this means that all of the entities which are present in your IoT system are not aware of the presence of any other entity into the system. Okay, if you relate this with the previous request and response model, we only found out that it was a stateless communication model. So here also we'll say that whatever requests and responses are being sent or forwarded from client to the server, all of these are independent of whatever was being sent previously. Okay, so a request and response pair is completely unaware of any other request and the response pair. Fine. Finally, you have one more communication model which is referred as a push pull. Okay, so the model over here will also comprise of publisher and consumers. Okay, now here what happens is in a push-pull communication model in which the data producers, so your data producers are publishers. Your data producers will push the data to queues. Okay, so here when your data is being sent, your publishers would send the messages to queues. Okay, so these are in the form of your queues and it would further be forwarded. Okay, so in a push-pull communication model, the data producers, who are your publishers, would produce and push the data to the queues, and your consumers will pull the data from the queues. Same case, your producers or the publishers do not need to be aware of what all consumers are present into my system. Okay, what is the help of queues, or what is the add-on which the queues are providing is that your queues will help in decoupling the messages between the producers and consumers. Okay, these can also act as buffer. Now what is the help which these queues are providing when they act as buffer is that these queues will help in situation when there is a mismatch between the rate at which the producers are sending the data or pushing the data into the queues and the rate at which the consumer is pulling the data. So the main motive of introducing queues over here is that if there is difference in the rate of sending the data and in the rate of accepting the data. Previously, when we were considering the client and server model, the client and server were aware of the presence of each of the entity. Here we have a specific information that producers or the publishers are completely unaware that what all consumers are present onto my system. Okay, so here if there is a difference in the rate at both of the sides, it would be very difficult to process and to send the data. Therefore, the queues have been introduced in the form of a buffer to provide a trade-off or to provide a better mechanism to handle the rate of pushing the data and the rate at which the consumers can pull the data. Okay. So here I have, let's say I have C1. So if I have C2, for that I'll have a different queue from which it can be. So there can be difference in the rates of pulling the data of for different consumers as well. Okay. Finally, you have a last communication model, which is an exclusive pair communication model. Okay. So till now, we have considered three models: request response, publisher subscriber, and push pull. Which one of the above was bidirectional? Only the request and response was bidirectional. However, the publisher subscriber and the push pull are unidirectional. Okay. Same here, the exclusive pair communication model is a bidirectional model. By okay. What is meant by full duplex and half duplex? What is meant by full duplex and half duplex?
A full
Yes.
duplex have two-way communication, while half duplex have only one-way communication.
So bidirectional is a full duplex.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So same, your exclusive pair is a bidirectional, or I can say it's a full duplex communication model. Um, Here, in case of an exclusive pair, the advantage which the exclusive pair offers you in context to a request and response is that once the connection is set up, it remains open, okay, until the client sends a request to close the connection. Fine. Now, what will happen? Your client and server can send the messages to each other after your connection has set up. In case of an exclusive pair, you can use any open connection also. You always do not need to establish the connection initially. Okay. What happens in an exclusive pair is that your exclusive pair, since it's a bidirectional or since it's a fully duplex communication model, it can use a existing connection that was initially established between the client and server. However, in the previous cases, what was there, every time when a connection had to be established, that is in the request and response, there was a proper connection establishment data exchange happening. However, in an exclusive pair, you do not need to open the connection. If there is any existing open connection, you can use that existing open connection to send the messages between the client and server. Okay. Now, since I said that it can use any open connection, will it be a stateful or will it be a stateless? Your exclusive pair is a stateful communication model because it needs to be aware of previous requests which have been forwarded between the client and servers. Okay, and also it needs to be open, it needs to be aware of what are the open connections. So for the open connections to be made public, your client and server should always be in a stateful state. Okay, so therefore we can say that the exclusive pair is a stateful communication model and the server is always aware of all the open connections. Clear? The communication in case of an exclusive pair would be the same how it happened in a request and response. So first thing is that if there is any open connection, then it would use that connection. Otherwise, client and server messages would be, there would be a request to set up the connection. Response will be generated accepting the request. Then message from client to server will be sent. Then the message from server to client will be sent. And finally, a connection close request from client to server, and then a connection close response from server to client will be sent. Okay, but only the thing is that it is a stateful communication model. Clear? So how are these four communication models being used in the IoT communication APIs? We'll be discussing this in our next class. We'll be discussing about certain REST-based communication APIs and WebSocket-based communication APIs, which use these underlying communication models in any IoT architecture or any IoT framework. Okay. Fine, we'll discuss this in our next class. Any doubt
Okay.
or from today's class?
No, ma'am.
See, this course will be a bit boring, so that is why I've only kept the classes twice a week. Okay. Any doubt, please do ask. Uh, Tomorrow it is 26. Okay. So tomorrow you'll not be having class. It's a holiday. I'll probably schedule the class on any other day and notify you.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.